Bring Fisk back.
He was one of my favorite characters too. That dude was legit shaped like a box.
Yeah, his design really bothered me the first time I saw it. I'm like, why is
still bother you?
Why does this man look like a refrigerator? Like, what is going on?
He does.
How can he punch as strong as Spider-Man?
This man got Microsoft written on his back.
You hear him in the middle of the night. Oh, that's just an ice maker. Hello and welcome to your favorite podcast, the Super Slow Bros. I can't do it. Welcome to Super Agile Bros, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve. With me here is my co-host Kyle. Say hi, Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
Perfect. Exactly what I wanted. And here we have Brad. Just kidding. Brad's not here today.
Oh no, he must be trapped.
He must be trapped. So actually there is a plan that I had put in motion weeks ago and totally forgotten about. But due to several crazy oversights, he's unable to join us today. Don't ask why. Don't ask where.
Just know that it's 100% your fault.
My fault or like the viewer's fault?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's reasonable. Maybe like in an alternate history he would have made it, but my plans are foolproof as always. So I get to host today and he can't say mean things about me behind my back or in front of my back even.
Infallible. Unfoilable.
Wait a sec. Is unfoilable just like a really strong, like a way to say unfallible with a strong accent?
Mayhaps.
You'll never get me, Superman. I'm unfoilable.
Immediately gets laser beamed in the face.
It's like McChilzaspic, whatever, the fifth dimensional creature from Superman. I don't know how to say his name. You have to say, well, yeah, it's like a weird, unpronounceable name that he has. And the only way to get rid of him in the original comic, I think, was to like trick him into spelling his name backwards or something dumb like that.
What? Wow.
He was basically like an all-powerful being from the fifth dimension who
with Rumpelstiltskin logic.
Yes, exactly. But he has this awful name, so it makes it even worse. I just remember as a kid watching the cartoon, and I think he was chasing Superman did something where he was chasing him, and he managed to trick him by spelling his name in the sky backwards, and that was enough to send him away.
Really?
Yeah.
Just writing in the sky.
So
writing. Enamored.
Maybe he was on fire and made like a cloud or a trail or something. I don't know.
Huh. Good old Superman.
Yeah. Good old like old Superman animated series.
When he could do whatever was necessary for the plot. Seriously,
just write him away. I already feel lonely without Brad. I feel like, where's the ad to my burr?
What?
Yeah, like I needed somebody to get that. He would have gotten that, but you're just not there.
I'm not.
Speaking of the fifth dimension, today I wanted to talk about something that you're probably very familiar with, which is multiverses. Ooh. Multiverses in fiction, specifically. I figured we would start with talking about the newest, greatest movie that came out.
Multiverses the game.
Multiverses the movie, right? With angry Shaggy. They won't. they won't call him. What's the phrase for Shaggy now? Ultra Instinct?
Ultra Instinct, yeah.
Do they actually call him that in Multiverses, or is it just what we call him?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I think that game is still in like enclosed beta or something, so I can't play it.
Right. I mean, it hasn't. I don't think it's come out yet, but
so I don't know. There's commercials. That's true.
For anyone who's not aware of these two separate facts, the first fact is that Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo cartoons has become the focus of a meme where people people talk about how powerful and just unfallible he is, unfoilable. And they call him Ultra Instinct Shaggy. And there's a quote where he's like, "I'm only using 1% of my power."
He says that in the game.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely. So, all right. The second fact is that WB has released a Smash Bros. Clone called Multiverses. And in it, well, Shaggy is one of the characters. And apparently, like, a major part of his gimmick as a fighter is that he can basically go Super Saiyan. And he's like angry or something. And I hate it. Because to me, I'm like, that's not related to his character at all. He's like the chillest, most scaredest dude.
I think even worse is that it's cemented this game in a particular point in time.
Right. It doesn't make any sense to do that.
The memes are like long. I mean, they're kind of dead. They came back a little bit, I guess, when the game dropped, but they completely missed the boat. Like, it takes too long to develop a game to try to capitalize on. If you're making a full game, that's got to be a skin or something in an existing game to try to, because you're going to be too late. Like it's months, if not a year or so, too late.
I don't know. I feel like that was such a bad idea, and everyone I talk to loves it. They're like, "Yeah, it's so funny. Look at this D&D campaign where Shaggy is an ultra dimensional being." I'm like, "Who cares?"
Excuse me?
It says, yeah, somebody made a D&D monster, the Shaggoth or something, and he exists in all dimensions. So every Shaggy you meet is just the representation of him in your dimension. And they made a move set for him, and I mean, it's cool. I love gimmicky. For Dungeons and Dragons, it makes sense. Like all the gimmicks you want. You're trying to be creative and funny and fun, having a good time. That makes sense. But for a fighting game where you have Batman and Superman,
yeah. I mean, when you put Superman in the game, I guess you have to just throw logic out the window already.
They should not have put Superman in the game. They should have put Green Lantern. I say this all the time. Green Lantern's a cooler, like, fighting character. I feel like he'd be a better fighter in whatever game he's in than Superman will be.
Cooler animations, too.
Yeah, just a neat concept.
Yeah, I like Green Lantern. But then you would just pick Jake the dog as his counter pick all the time.
Wait, because he's yellow?
Yeah.
How? I mean, I always
immediately lose the match.
I always hear that his weakness is yellow, but is it literally just the color yellow, or is it fear? Because I thought fear was the... I don't know. I didn't read the most of the Green Lantern comics. So.
I'm not the one to ask. I think it's somewhere in between those things.
Okay.
Or a mixture of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of multiverses and massive comic books, this movie came out recently called Everything, Everywhere, All... No, it's called Doctor Strange.
You would do that.
Yeah. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness.
That's the title, right? And the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's kind of wordy.
A little bit. They put it all on there, though. You look at the posters, every one of those words is up there.
They're like, we gonna spell it out. This man has a PhD. We're not putting that to waste.
Right. We're writing sentences up in here.
Yeah. So when this movie came out, do you remember how you felt when you saw the first trailer?
So I think I actually saw... I'm trying to remember now the timeline. So whatever first images I saw of it, whether it was at the end of Spider-Man or the first trailer for the movie, I was kind of excited because I like Doctor Strange, the character. I like Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor.
Of course.
He's great. And then, how they keep using all the characters from Sherlock Holmes in Marvel movies. I think it's a good idea. So I was about it. Of course I had no idea what was going on because it was after like WandaVision and stuff where she was dealing with the multiverse. Loki show came and went dealing with the multiverse. So it was just, and they were kind of hyping it up, I guess. So I was looking forward to it. What about you?
Yeah, now that you mention it, I actually remember that they had there were leaks. So on Facebook, people would say, "Oh, these are the movies coming out in 2022," and or no, they wouldn't say. Well, they would say, "Oh yeah, these are the movies coming out in the next phase of Marvel, and the MCU."
Yeah.
And Multiverse of Madness was on there, and I think people thought it was a joke at first because a lot of that was right around the time when everyone was talking about how the next Spider-Man movie would have all the Spider-Men in it, and everyone thought it was not really gonna. Well, I didn't think it was real, and all the actors were like, "No, we're not in a Spider-Man. What are you talking about?"
Would I lie to your face on live television
for a couple $1,000 easy?
Right. I'm not scared of Disney.
What are you gonna do? Not watch my movie not watch my potential movie were it to come out?
Right.
Anyway,
hypothetically.
But at that time, they broached this title, Multiverse of Madness, and I'm like, that's great. There hasn't been a sequel to Doctor Strange yet. That was one of my favorite Marvel movies at the time.
It was very different.
Yeah, all of the character studies are different, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the visuals. I enjoyed the mystical aspects of it. I enjoyed Bennerbeck Bunderbudge.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was excited for a sequel. The first trailer came out, and I was like, "Yes, this looks like the perfect sequel. Like everything that made Doctor Strange different from the rest of the Marvelverse is like dialed up to 100."
It's one of those movies where I appreciate all the CGI and special effects just because of the subject matter. Like them going well over the edge is anticipated in movies like these.
Yeah, all the visual effects about the mirror dimension were super cool. It's just fun. It's a fun watch. And of course, anything to do with time loops and everything is satisfying to me as a sci-fi geek. So yeah, I was excited. The trailers were great. And I don't know about you, but I feel like the movie pretty much lived up to the trailer. In fact, I would say I was my expectations were exceeded.
Ooh.
Yeah.
How so? Why?
Because the trailer did not really. There were certain aspects of the movie that I liked that didn't come through in the trailer, and I kind of so basically, if you know Sam Raimi, if you've seen The Evil Dead, or those related movies, if you've seen his horror movies, he has a very specific sensibility, and it's just such a fun way to do horror movies, and that came in so much. Didn't I tell you to watch it? Well, I don't know. We were talking about it, and we were talking about the horror aspects of it.
Yeah, because I'd had a lot of people tell me that, especially just from, I guess, a superhero movie in general, but especially a Marvel movie, that he really dialed up the horror element.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, moving with the way that the Scarlet Witch had to be and stuff, that really got them into, I guess, that side of things. And so people were kind of warning me, saying, this isn't really for kids, which I'm not a child, so I don't need that warning. and so they were pretty much saying, don't bring any kids with you because it's Doctor Strange, it's Marvel, And then because they're cutting jokes, making quips and stuff in the trailer, and everything is all bright, even though they're fighting monsters and stuff. Everything is all bright and colorful. But yeah, there is a large part of the movie shrouded in darkness, creepy eyes. There's some contortion in there, like a lot of stuff you wouldn't expect to see in a PG-13 movie that you wouldn't expect to see in a Marvel movie.
Yeah,
but would be right at home in a horror movie.
There was some cruelty too.
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
Like some of the stuff that went down, I was like, oh no. And I'm here for it, but I would not bring my kids to watch that.
Yeah, and it kind of ramped too, because all the movies are violent, I guess, in a way, because it's superheroes, so they're fighting somebody. But it's usually like robots, which there were a couple robots in this movie, but there were people too. I mean, but they kind of ramp it up by showing that the first fight is with, a monster thing. And like they really set you up by showing Doctor Strange getting stabbed in the leg. And it's like, usually that happens off screen, but no, you saw it happen this time. Like the alternate universe. And that was kind of like bridging you into is like, oh, this is a meaty one. Like there's going to be like stuff is going to happen on screen. So get ready type of thing. Cause it wasn't that bad, but it's like worse. I mean, I guess the closest thing we saw was like maybe Iron Man getting impaled.
Not only did he get impaled, but he started sucking the life out of a little girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's already high stakes. We're like 5 minutes in.
Right. Like,
yeah.
Kill a child for the greater good, and this is the hero of the movie in the first 5 minutes. So, who do you root for?
Someone like the hero, yeah. Yeah, what are my favorite parts? I loved... So, someone was complaining about this, but I loved the... part of basically the horror stuff. So when Wanda's like chasing them down a hallway and her eyes are glowing and she's hunched over and she's kind of like shuffling towards them.
Ooh, yeah.
Like that was so unnecessarily cool and creepy.
Very creepy.
Yeah. But one of my friends was complaining. He's like, why didn't she float? She's the Scarlet Witch. She flies all the time. And I'm like, dude, he did it for the style. Please.
Oh, yeah.
Please let the style be.
That whole sequence of events was all for style points.
Yeah.
Like,
the whole scene when she breaks out of the mirror dimension and she starts like sucking people into water puddles and stuff. Mm-hmm. That was classic. That was so good.
It was really good.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments too where I was like, first off, the fact that she figured that out like in half a second, because she was like super bewildered whenever they captured her in that space. And then, because I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I felt like that was one of the parts where they set it up really well. Where it's like, you think you have a grasp on what might happen, but since everything in here is like magic and fantastical, you have no idea. And so, for her to reach through like part of a barrier they just put her in, to be able to now, I guess, move through surfaces in the next room that are reflective, like, even if it has like all of because one of the things she came out of was a gong, which it doesn't have a reflection like a mirror, but it is reflecting light, and so it's a bit of a, like, man, every reflective surface, huh?
Yeah, that was cool. Didn't she like creepy crawl out of that gong too, like the ring? Oh
yeah, she was fully twisted up. Yeah,
that's right. She was contorted. Yeah, ooh,
because she snapped all her bones back into place whenever she got into the room, and nobody said anything about it, except for me.
That was also one of the only scenes that showed Strange fighting with magic that wasn't just, I'm going to make some golden sparks and like a lasso or a shield or a knife or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because he like made some dragons or something, or she made some dragons. I'm like, okay, so there is other types of magic this man knows. Please.
And that boy, he hissed while he sent out those dragons.
Yeah, he did.
I was like, man, he's killing this
so
thing.
Silly.
It was. But it helped, I think, because it was one of those moments like it's serious for them, I guess, because, I mean, magic is kind of silly, but it's like also very powerful in this multiverse of madness. Mm-hmm. But the fight scenes were really cool, though, otherwise.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping, I can't remember the name. What's the name of the big eye monster with all the tentacles?
The one that he attacked and killed in the very beginning?
The very beginning, right after the wedding.
I don't remember.
Man, there's a friend of mine who knows its name, and he called it out whenever it was in the trailers.
Oh, it's like a known monster?
Yeah, it's in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, but of course it showed up like in the comics and stuff. But I don't.
And they relegated to an unnamed demon servant?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because Wanda was the main big bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's
gotta
fine.
Get that recognition, though.
They do that all the time with random characters.
I think it was so short, though. I think that was like trailer fodder. Like, they just wanted to have that scene in there so they could... Because his reason for being in the movie was throwaway anyway. She was like, oh, it's mercy that I sent this demon after her versus me going myself. So it literally could have been anybody.
Which doesn't make any sense, by the way. That's definitely a writing tool that they use to get around the fact that it doesn't make any sense for her to not come herself.
Yeah, they wanted the movie to happen.
She could have said, I was lazy. Like, that would have been a better excuse.
Right, I don't feel like, in comparison.
I don't feel like possessing my other selves in every dimension you're in just to get to you. Let me send some henchmen.
Exactly. Not going to do it. But, man, yeah, completely blanking. But anyway, I thought that was a pretty... I mean, the fight was, like I said, I think it still was trailer fodder, but that fight I felt was really cool too. Like, and then it was another one that kind of brought you into this mode where there's going to be like extra gore in this one because they killed it by ripping its eye out.
Oh yeah, that was
showed nuts. Every piece of that. And I was like, man, we are in for a different experience with Doctor Strange Chapter 2.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I should say now before we go any further. There are major spoilers upcoming in the discussion for Doctor Strange. I feel like we've talked about the beginning in like a few specific scenes.
Yeah,
I don't think we've said anything major yet, but going forward, I'm gonna mention a few major things. So be aware.
Be aware.
Be
viewers.
aware. Be aware.
You're in for a scare.
Your ears and spoilers beware. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of the line from Goosebumps. What was it? Was it viewer beware? You're in for a scare.
That sounds
you
right.
Might be in for a scare.
That sounds right.
Dun, 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 dun.
I used to have nightmares from that intro.
Oh, absolutely.
The intro was worse than the rest of the show.
That part with the dog.
Yes.
Singing along, haunting.
That was so goofy.
It was, but it was enough.
Yeah, the floating G turned the dog evil, and I'm like, oh my god, this G is insane.
This G. I trusted the dog.
I trusted the dog.
And the G.
All right. But yeah, so one of the most exciting, interesting, I guess, hype moments of the movie that is given to us via the magic of multiverse writing, I don't know, is that we got to see the Illuminati in one of these other universes, and it had a bunch of characters that haven't been allowed in mainline, I say mainline, I guess that's a good way to put it, mainline Marvel properties in a long time. So the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Inhumans, and then a few an alternate version of
Captain America,
Captain Carter,
our captains,
and the other
alternate Captain Crunch,
Captain Cringe, and of course our favorite Mordo. Is it Mordo or Mordo? I forget.
Oh gosh, Mordo sounds.
I want to say Mordo,
right?
Yeah,
but it's probably Mordo because I'm confident about Mordo.
Yeah. So that was really cool. We got to see these characters, and especially with Professor Xavier as like the surprise. I was like, basically every time they added a new one to the screen, I was like, ooh, ooh. And Kiesha's just like,
no.
Are you okay? What's happening?
Giddy.
I was giddy, yeah.
And when Professor Xavier came on screen and they played,
yeah, they even used the music. Gosh,
bro, I about fainted.
So that was the most hype moment, and then they all died horribly,
very bad,
really awful. I mean, Black Bolt. I still think about the way Black Bolt died.
It was rough, but I blame Jim.
Of course, it's Jim's fault, but I like how we're calling him Jim. It's what is it? Nathan Reed, Norman Reed,
Reed Richards.
Who's?
Yeah,
I don't know. Dr. Richards.
Norman Reedus.
It's definitely Reed's fault. He should have just killed her on the spot. Well, he shouldn't have done anything because he's a stretchy man. As he found out the hard way. Gosh.
He's got a lot of weaknesses.
His death was really bad, too.
It was rough. Yeah, because he turned into spaghetti.
And then his head exploded.
It's like, I don't even... Why did his head need to pop if everything... Like, he could... His head could have been spaghetti, too.
I think they just wanted to really drive it home that he was dead. It wasn't like in Avengers Infinity War when they turned somebody into, like, paper spirals or, like, blocks.
Oh, yeah.
And then they came back afterwards. Because when that happened in the movie, the first time I watched it, I was like, holy crap, he just killed them.
Right.
What a brutal way to go. And then they were fine. You don't
survive that.
They were just fine. But in this one, he definitely was not fine.
Yeah, because I guess, so, in the same way, they were both altering reality, but I guess the reality stone is more of a mirage. Yeah. She was doing it for real because she was, is it death walking? What was it?
Dream walking?
Dream walking. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so she was doing stuff for real.
Yeah. But this, I mean, there's no way this would have happened. There's no way a movie would have something like that where you introduce a couple of awesome wanted characters that have been, like, talked about and you know, theorized about, like, oh, maybe they'll eventually bring the Fantastic Four in. You don't just do that and then murder the entire cast unless you have the flexibility offered to you by multiverses.
I think they have a couple of different options based on how they've handled stuff before. Which, one would be the flexibility of multiverses, so they could just bring these characters back in another universe and give them 99% of the same characteristics. Give them a ponytail or something like they did. Oh, it's a new character now. Or they can do what they did with Black Widow and have her origin stuff come out after she's already run her course in the whole thing. So they could still have the movies, but say, oh, it's before the events of Multiverse of Madness. So that's why they're alive.
I mean, technically, if you think about it, they have done that. Because all these Fantastic Four movies and X-Men movies, you could just say they're prequel. They don't even exist in the timeline at all.
No. We don't talk about those.
We don't talk about those.
But I do think that the casting choices were pretty cool. Because that's kind of a make or break. And so it's like, when you're going to kill off a character, a lot of times I feel like they either pick somebody who has the name recognition for it to be like, oh, it's silly because it's them. But when they die, it's like, oh, well, I didn't expect them to be credible in that role anyway. But they chose people who would be great in the actual movies for these characters.
Yeah.
Like, I completely trust all of them to just kill their multiverse versions, no pun intended, of these movies.
Yeah. It almost feels like they went out of their way to get the best actors they could just for the shock value and the hype. Well, the hype and then later the shock value.
Oh, man. Super shocking.
But so like, that's fun. It's cool that they did that, especially for something that's like Doctor Strange is kind of a one-off movie where it's unclear how much the plot will, matter moving forward into the rest of the Avengers movies. But do you think that, well, I don't know, what implications? So basically this was, I guess, the second movie. I actually haven't seen the latest Spider-Man, but this was the second movie to, like, I know.
We're ending the podcast right now for you to go watch it, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah. This was the second movie in the MCU to really broach the concept of the multiverse. So I'm pretty sure that's what happens in the previous Spider-Man movie. Technically,
No, I'll let you finish.
Okay. Technically, they mentioned multiverses in No Way Home or Far From Home, but then they lampshaded it and they were like, actually, it was a ploy by Mysterio.
Right. Man.
So that's, that was a fun little misdirection, but then they actually did it in the next Spider-Man movie and definitely in this movie.
They've been leading up to just going all in, because even in the last Avengers with the quantum realm is technically like a multiverse situation.
Is it?
A lot of the movie was spent there. Yeah, I wasn't certain. I had to look it up. I looked up on the wikis because that's how they were treating it, because of that whole idea between time travel and multiversal travel and all that stuff. And so the quantum realm was how they, I guess, went in between. You shrink so much that reality doesn't matter or something. It's really strange. I can't explain it. But pretty much, yeah, they're saying the quantum realm is another aspect of the multiverse.
That's interesting.
Yeah, kind of cool.
So my question to you is, do you think that now that the cat's out of the bag, will the MCU rely heavily on multiverse layered stories, blah, 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 in the future? Ooh. And if so, do you think that's going to be better, good or bad?
I think the foreseeable future, like I kind of think we're already in it. So short answer is yes. I think they're going to utilize it for the next little bit, because I feel like Marvel kind of pigeonholed themselves in a really strange way with all the actors, and how the people who played the roles are synonymous with those characters, and how difficult it is for them to recast or have a new version of a character or anything like that. I feel like they're going to almost be forced to use multiverse to keep their characters, but reintroduce them while also phasing out the old ones. And I think until people are okay with these characters, seeing a couple iterations of these characters, they're going to have to do it this way. Just because they have to, I guess, for nothing else but a smooth transition. Because unless somebody has like criminal allegations and get fired from the movie set, even then, it might not be enough to say, okay, well, people still like the movies. The writing will be the same. It'll be a different actor. They might change the character up a little bit, but that's okay, right, everybody? And then everybody says, no, that is not okay.
Do you think that...
Then we go to the multiverse.
Excuse me, I almost yawned. Then I crunched it down slowly. Do you think that DC will have to use multiverses to get rid of Ezra Miller and Amber Heard?
No, I don't think they care enough. They just recast everybody willy-nilly, it seems.
Yeah.
If they think somebody will be good in a role, they're just confident enough to do it, because I don't know, they've treated, from what I've seen, every character has been distinct enough to where it doesn't seem like somebody taking over for somebody else. Like, it's almost been like a James Bond situation with new iterations of like Batman, for example. Like no two Batmans have felt like, oh, someone else is playing Batman, just like Christian Bale's Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman. Especially nobody's done the Adam West Batman.
Sure. I mean, that's fair, but especially with Batman, like, there hasn't been any other... what am I trying to say? All of the different Batmen that have had movies in the last 20 years or whatever have existed in their own separate bubbles, their own cinematic universes or series. And they don't mix them. But now that they're trying to do a Justice League, or they were, who knows what they're trying to do now, but, they're trying to have something like a cinematic universe in play. They can't just, they're not, I mean, they could, but so far they haven't introduced a new Batman to replace the one that was introduced to us in Batman v Superman.
Oh yeah, not for those. Yeah, because I don't think the what's his name, Twilight guy, Robert Pattinson. Yeah. I don't think they intend to put his Batman in the Justice League.
Right, exactly. I don't think they're going to put Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in the Justice League, or he obviously wouldn't be in the league, but in those movies,
let him in.
Let him in.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. They're just kind of doing whatever they want with the characters, making up interesting stories. In a lot of ways, they're treating it similarly to how they do the animated, I guess, series and like one-offs and stuff.
You think so?
Marvel kind of does that. Like, they've had different Spider-Man series and different like Avengers series, like for kids. They did,
and now all the Spider-Men are all canon.
Yeah, so that's a can of worms.
A cannon of worms. So that's I guess that's my question, right? Is
Can of
that,
spiders.
how well do you think that, or how much do you think that can of worms or can of spiders will like hurt people's enjoyment of the MCU? Because here's why I ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've I've definitely talked about this specific conversation before in a previous episode. I was talking with a friend and he was talking about how the MCU is superior to the comics because the comics have been around for decades and they're always rewriting characters, rewriting origins, retelling similar stories, killing and then bringing back characters. And there's not one like thread of a story that you can follow, whereas the MCU was this epic, universe spanning
Mm-hmm.
dozens of movies. And I'm like, first of all, those dozens of movies are like maybe 2 or 3 years worth of comics. Like that's not very epic or spanning compared to anyway. But that was my point, right? Was that like they haven't made enough movies yet to get to the point where they've run out of options, where they're pigeonholed, like you said. So they don't have to rehash
Mm-hmm.
stuff. They don't have to use time travel or multiverses or anything to like bring characters back from the dead or
Right.
retell similar stories with similar but different distinct characters. Like they don't have to do that. But that was years ago, and now they are doing that. And so I wonder if not he, but I wonder if people like him will start to feel like, oh, there's not really like a common thread anymore. Like, is this which Batman is this? I don't know. Is it the Ben Affleck Batman? How does that react with Joaquin's Joker?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wonder if they've let a cat out of the bag that should not have been let out.
Maybe. Yeah. Because I think early on, like the MCU decided that it was going to be a journey of these interwoven stories versus, yeah, like you were saying, like having these siloed experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the beginning, it seemed like they've intended. Then they make it seem that way. Maybe they just did some really clever writing on the back end. Who knows?
Sure.
But it seems like from the beginning that they've always intended for things to kind of spearhead eventually. But yeah, it's unclear whether or not this is the direction they intended to go. Because on one hand, they are getting a lot of mileage now, I guess, out of using multiverse and it being able to introduce all these other characters. And they did something smart, which was, I guess, start off with the ones that were the most iconic or would become the most iconic, And
Yeah.
now they're diving into all these secondary characters, if you will, and being able to have these spin-off shows, with Hawkeye getting his own show with Kate Bishop, who's a couple of tiers down, if you will, like in the grand scheme of things, and especially in the MCU. We hadn't even heard that name before, and she's got her own show. So it shows like a lot of power, I guess, between like the way that they've handled things and the branching storylines, and it was also we accepted it because in the MCU they made this relationship between Hawkeye and Black Widow, and now he's got a Void, and now another strong, independent female comes in, and she has a bow too, so we're even more alike,
Ooh.
and so moviegoers and show watchers are like, yeah, I'm in for it. I'll ship it, as they say. So
I don't think
I
that's what
think
they
it's
mean when they say I'll ship it.
it's not at all, but I was going to say it anyway. What's the ship version of like a father-daughter scenario?
uh,
Algardian it. And
mm,
either way, people were down for it, and so I think that they've set it up in a way people aren't expecting, I guess, necessarily for them to follow the comics, but for it to be a continuous journey. And then people are, myself included in this list, are trapped now because I have to watch everything to know what happens next because I can't really refer to, maybe they'll reference things from comics, but they're not following any other storyline necessarily. So
mm-hmm.
it's like the only place I can get it. And, on top of being unique, it is all typically high quality and enjoyable. So win, win, win. But mostly I'm stuck.
Yeah. I remember asking around like, can I watch Doctor Strange without having watched Spider-Man No Way Home? People were like, yeah, it's not too related. You have to watch WandaVision. I'm like, oh great, I already watched WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting? I meant to bring it up earlier. They not only are using multiverses, but they're also using time travel, which to me are
Yeah.
like those are like distinct plot whatever writing tools, because they have distinct limitations, but they're using them
Explain.
to get the same practical effect, which is lots of different versions, similar versions of a story that can be told or like used.
So when did they use time travel?
Well, they used it a lot in Endgame. Because not only did they, I mean, it's a little bit contrived. You could have said, "Oh, there's no time travel," and he just doesn't. He doesn't. Well, no, you needed the time travel. Basically, took up most of the story in Endgame. Oh no, Thanos destroyed the stones. Now we have to get them from somewhere. So let's go on this like time heist. That was the whole like most of the movie. Um,
Oh yeah. So
but then
yeah,
that
and
had
I think that's where they um, kind of threw it away by saying that was the quantum realm isn't time travel. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
well, it was. I mean, yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, I guess you could say it wasn't time travel. It was instead a. It was just multiverses, but they accessed them at different points on the timeline. You
I
could
think for
say.
all intents and purposes, it might as well have been. But I guess just so they didn't have to have the time travel debate and how time travel works, that they put
Mm-hmm.
their own definition on what was happening. Because yeah, if they make something up, I mean, maybe it's an actual thing you could do, shrink something down to where the molecules, whatever. But to use that in place of a multiverse and then not have to deal with time travel, I think was. It seems to me like it was just more of a clever writing decision than.
Perhaps, yeah. But have you seen Loki?
I have seen Loki.
I mean, that Loki is rife with time travel, and it's like explicitly time travel too.
Yeah, because they have all the devices, like the timekeepers and all that. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're intending to do that, and I don't know if they ever explain their technology, but yeah. So that is rife with both. Is it both time travel and multiverse? I think it is
I mean, if you
because it was
consider if you consider a branched timeline as an alternate universe,
yeah.
but it seems to me that the multiverses that are being that are explored in Doctor Strange are not conceptually the same as branched timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just because the atmosphere, like one is a sci-fi show and one is a magical movie. So like, oh, I can only use magic to get through these different multiverses, whereas I have to use technology to get through these different timelines. Yeah, I don't know, but
And it was implied in Doctor Strange that the multiverses they were going to, it was at the same time, quote
yes,
unquote,
yes, it's the
and so
same. They never
moment, yeah,
translated to different points in time. It was always whatever year it is in, in the MCU right now.
right.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like they didn't have a trouble. One thing that always not bothers me, but I question in these types of things is that locations, whenever they multiverse travel, it
Mm-hmm.
seems to be whatever is crucial to the plot because they can travel to like a specific location when they need to sometimes. Other times they just travel and it puts them like in the same spot that they were
Oh,
in
right.
their universe, and then other times it just puts them in a random spot and they're like falling from the sky sometimes,
And
and
in
it's super
Loki,
inconsistent.
it was random spot and well, not random, but they could choose the spot and choose the time. It was super powerful.
Yeah, very OP.
Yeah. I it's funny you bring that up. I didn't even think about that, but that weird little distinction that you don't usually think about and that no one writes about is actually one of the main, well, not main, but one of the, yeah, I guess main plot points of Half-Life 2, which
Oh,
is it's if you've played any of the Half-Life games, the premise is that there's other dimensions, and in the first game you accidentally opened portals and a bunch of alien monsters kind of fell out into our world and attacked us, and you had to like escape the lab and all this other stuff. And then in Half-Life 2, you come back to our reality, or you kind of were in hibernation, and you're woken up after I think like 20 years or something. And in that time, a huge alien, like multiversal empire from a different dimension used that kind of weakness in the fabric of reality to barge into our world, into our universe, and take over.
Oh, wow.
And so like you wake up in it's kind of apocalyptic. It's like, or just, it's very dystopian. Aliens rule everything. The whole Earth was all of our armies and military were defeated in 7 hours.
7 hours, man.
They call it the 7-hour war. Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense when you consider the just overwhelming technology. And
for sure.
It's like the Covenant, where you have one alien species that runs things, and they kind of enslave other species from other dimensions as they go. And so there's just all sorts of monstrosities and technology they have at their disposal. But the reason that they haven't just wiped out humanity and just taken over the planet entirely is that humans, so these aliens have the technology, and they've had it for a long time, to move between universes, between universes. But they've never figured out interdimensional travel or you know what? I think it's intra. Basically, they can't teleport. So once they're here on Earth, they have to travel the normal way.
Oh,
they can't pick and choose where they show up.
I see.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But humans have teleporting technology, and so they're they're trying to figure out like how to use our technology, and that's like the one advantage we have aside from our plot armor and our indomitable human spirit is teleporting technology.
Power of friendship.
The power of friendship and Valve's writing team.
Man, that's crazy, because a lot of times when teleportation in movies and TV shows, especially when it's technology based, they kind of you just kind of assume that, they can either teleport across a country or to another planet. Or I guess if they can do the big thing, which would be interdimensional, interuniversal, whatever it is, travel, then the little thing, like just going down the street, is a given. So that's pretty interesting that it's not.
Yeah, it was a really cool little nugget that they put in that game.
Man.
So it's funny because like you meet some scientists and they're explaining like, we made a local, they call it local space teleporter, I think. And they're talking about how it works. Meanwhile, if you've played Portal, which exists in the same universe, you know that a competitor to the company that you used to work for. So all the stuff went down in Black Mesa, but then their competitors, Aperture Science, also had independently created their own teleporting technology, which is the portal gun. And it exists. It's existed for decades, and no one knows about it except like the one person alive inside Aperture Science.
Wow.
And so it's just really funny that like this desperate struggle for survival of the species is happening over this technology. Meanwhile, in a lab underground somewhere, it's just one woman casually using this like super important, super rare technology.
Man,
it's great.
To change the world.
Yeah, like if she were ever to escape the lab and not have her ending retconned, then that would be huge. But
you sound like you're a little salty about that.
I'm not salty necessarily. I'm like, that's fine. In the original game, in original Portal, she escapes the lab at the beginning, with the portal gun.
Ooh.
And she passes out in a parking lot on the ground, on the surface. But then at some point before the second game came out, they retconned the ending. They patched everybody's game. So now as you're passing out, you hear a robot say, "Thank you for taking the..." Oh, I don't remember. They had like a really wordy description for "please curl up in a ball and let us abduct you." And it basically said, "Thank you for curling up in a ball." And it just drags you back towards the hole. And then you pass out. And then the second game starts with you back in the lab. like 100 years later or something. But so she never escaped. The portal gun did not leave the lab.
And that's how you effectively set up a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
But speaking of the multiverse travel, though, the new character that they've introduced, I guess superhero, if you will, in this movie, America Chavez. I saw her in one of the trailers, I don't remember, the one where Doctor Strange is standing at the door and in the floating universe, whatever part of the trailer that was, and she was always standing next to him, kind of behind him.
Yeah.
And the initial thought was that was actually Miss Marvel.
Who thought that?
I just saw it online, and I kind of thought it too, because it was just like some random little girl who was dressed
because of the trailers. Clothes. I could see that, yeah.
And so to find out that this is a completely new character while the Miss Marvel series is going on was kind of it was kind of misdirecting, I guess. I mean, they never came out and said anything, so there really wasn't there's nothing to latch on to to make that hypothesis. But it was kind of interesting to be kind of not baited and switched, but just to be wrong, I guess, flat out.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting to see a new character that I don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd heard of her, but I didn't know her power set or anything. I didn't know anything about her. So
I don't know if they know her powers yet. Did you notice when they were fighting the eyeball creature at the beginning? She was like climbing on the ledge on the building, trying to get away from it. And at one point, she stomps on some concrete and breaks a piece off, and it falls in its eye and blinds it. But when she stomps, she uses her powers, and the concrete that falls is shaped like a star.
Oh, I didn't notice the concrete was shaped like a star.
Yeah, the cutout that she drops on it is star-shaped.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So she has like a star-shaped portals.
Yeah,
and then later when she was breaking out of that glass enclosure, the cracks in the glass were also star-shaped. And I'm like, okay, so she's got some sort of like, okay, I don't know what this means. And then it's just never explained. And it's just her power is making portals. But I'm like, how do these other two instances relate to her making portals?
Right. Yeah, because it did show that she had like some sort of super strength. And then, all of her portals were shaped like stars too. It was, I guess it's something that you would have to research in the comics. But that is some... they never did bring up why she was just strong, too.
I don't think she has super strength. I think that what those two instances were her using some sort of energy blast to supplement her punch.
Okay. Well, yeah, that would make more sense, I guess. Yeah.
Although it'd be cool if it was just super strength and then things happen to break into shapes of stars around her.
Ooh.
That'd be like a fun, like some sort of reality bending ability. I guess it is a reality bending ability, but...
Super strong and making crafts.
She punches a piece of paper and just a perfect star cut out. Happy Mother's Day. Oh, wait. Dang.
I didn't want star tile in the middle of the street.
That's the other thing. I just thought of her parents. Why did she not immediately use her newfound control over powers to go find her mom's when she figured that out? Instead, she's like training
magic.
I'm like, what? Go.
Completely forgot about him. Because Doctor Strange told her that all she had to do was believe in herself. And you don't need parents for that.
That's true. I've never needed my parents.
But another interesting aspect, though, about her powers was that because she could travel through the multiverses, there wasn't another version of her anywhere.
Right. I wonder what the correlation between those two facts is.
Yeah.
Like, does she have that power because she's the only instance of herself? Would anyone who's maybe... anyone whose other instances are killed and he becomes the last one, would he also gain powers like that? Ooh,
that's an interesting concept. It kind of goes with the question that I had too, like if there are other beings like her who could interdimensionally travel, but they don't have doppelgangers either. And maybe J. Jonah Jameson is an interdimensional travel. Because he's the same in every movie. all the Spider-Mans, it was the same guy who hated Spider-Man, following him between multiverses.
He's secretly the villain. Oh man.
That'd be the best.
That would be so great. I would pay double ticket price to see that movie.
Good, because Disney's rates have doubled.
That's true. Yeah, man, movie theaters are expensive. I just watched. So I mentioned it earlier. I actually wanted to bring this up. Another excellent recent movie that deals with the multiverse. In fact, I would say this movie is more of a multiverse of madness than Doctor Strange was, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you seen this movie?
No, I actually wasn't even aware of it until you told me. I wish it was on a streaming service, though, because after you told me, I wanted to go see it.
Oh my
I looked at it a little bit.
Did you see the trailer?
Did I? No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh. First of all, you gotta watch. I'm mad I didn't tell you to watch a trailer before this, because it's too late now. I won't say anything too much about it. I will say that the idea of madness via exposure to multiverses is explored. So I'm like, it's even more on the nose than Doctor Strange itself was. But dude, that movie is so good. And it's so weird. You kind of have to go into it with a healthy suspension of disbelief because it plays a little fast and loose with the mechanics, and also with a healthy sense of humor because it'll go straight from like serious to kind of like campy and goofy, back and forth really fast, almost like Sam Raimi actually. Maybe an alternate version of Sam Raimi directed this movie.
Yeah, I mean, like from what I've seen, I guess multiverse movies, they tend to have that kind of like off balance sense to them. So maybe it's just a trope that just fits in well with the subject matter. Because I mean, if you're traveling to all these different things, doing like this really silly hijinks, when you think about it, it'd be kind of weird, I guess, to have a serious tone the whole time.
Yeah.
And for stuff not to just be awkward. It feels those moments feel like genuine.
Yeah. I think I should say the tone is campy, but it's also surreal and like absurdist sometimes, which it kind of has to be if you're going to be plugging at different versions of reality over and over and over. But yeah, it was great. Some of the fight scenes are just none of the fight scenes. No. All right, let me think about what I want to say. All of the fight scenes are well choreographed, but only a few of them are, I would say, serious fight scenes. Most of the fighting is played for absurdity.
Really?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It's hard to say without talking about it. Okay, so there's a scene. There's a scene in the trailer where a guy vomits up confetti and then explodes into confetti.
He vomits confetti and then explodes into himself?
He just pops and is confetti and his clothes fall on the ground. Okay.
Excuse me, what?
And so the scene or the largest scene that scene comes from is basically showcasing the powers of the main villain. And she's basically like the Mask, but evil.
Jim Carrey's The Mask?
Well, not Jim Carrey's specifically, but just the idea of like, imagine a character who can make anything real and just it's just zany wackiness. But in The Mask, it's zany wackiness that leads to like all the cops doing a maramba.
Right.
But in this movie, it's zany wackiness where people's heads get crushed or they get shot to death. Or like it's like violent. It leads to violence.
So it's rated R.
She weaponizes her zaniness. And I
think that's what should have happened in The Mask.
It really, I mean, maybe his like arch nemesis would be like that.
Because there was an evil guy who got the mask who kind of did that. I think he killed somebody.
Oh, did he? I don't know.
I don't remember.
I mean, the most violent thing in Jim Carrey's Mask is when he pulls out, he's doing balloon animals for some thugs, and then he does like a third balloon animal, and it's like a Tommy gun, and then it actually becomes a Tommy gun, and
Oh
it just
yeah.
lights up the whole alley. But they're basically just dancing around and dodging the bullets, like and it's silly. It's no one actually gets hurt. But no, people definitely got hurt in that movie. There's a scene, so that's one aspect. There's a scene I think is also in the trailer where some guy is fighting like kung fu, like over the top kung fu movie,
like the floating and stuff.
People, not the floating, but with people like flying from small hits and like this and that. But he's doing it with a fanny pack.
He's hitting people with the fanny pack?
Yes, he's beating the tar out of people with a fanny pack. It's like a Jackie Chan movie, but worse, like scary, like scarier. Is at one point he go, when like somebody has a weapon on a rope or on a chain and they're wrapping it around themselves and flinging it left and right, and they're like using their elbows and their knees to redirect it, and you're like, oh, follow the birdie, and then they kind of like project it at the person, and it has so much force because of I don't know how it has that much force, but it like fly instead of swinging it, they like throw it somehow, but it's unexpected. He does that with the fanny pack, and the fork that goes into the fork clasp on the it goes up the person's nose, and they're like they're like trapped. It's a fork in their nose, but they're trapped. And then from far away, he just flings them onto the ground. I'm like, that's stupid. There's no way. But when you're watching it, it's awesome.
Unconventional weapons.
Unconventional. Just everything's unconventional. I won't say anything else because there are some things that happen in the movie that I thought were amazing that were not in the trailer at all. So I don't want to spoil it for you or anyone else.
They relate directly to the fanny pack.
Yeah, it's definitely a fanny pack centric movie. Once the fanny pack's out of the picture, you kind of forget what's going on. But
that's a shame. Justice for fanny pack.
Justice for fanny packs everywhere. But no, that movie is incredible. I can't decide if I liked it better than Doctor Strange or not.
Really?
It's very different. I think I have to say I love them both. But it's definitely not worse. It's not a worse movie than Doctor Strange. I'll say that.
You love them both equally.
Yeah. They're both my sons, and I love them equally, even though I get along better with one than the other.
The one with the fanny pack.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Obviously. Now I gotta go watch that movie, because it already had... I looked at the actors, and I saw a couple people that I like to see.
I'm really tempted.
So the kung fu part of it.
I'm really tempted to just let you watch the trailer right now and just get your live reaction.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I'll watch it immediately after and post my thoughts, as well as the trailer, in the Discord.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to post in the Discord. Everyone's going to be like, where have you been? We've known about this movie.
Very true.
It's still in theaters.
I don't mind being late.
I mean, that's where we watched it. We watched it. That was the segue earlier, is we paid an arm and a leg for those tickets, and it's like been in the theaters for like 3 months.
I went and saw the last the new Jurassic World Dominion.
Oh, really?
In theaters, yeah. I don't know if Everything Everywhere, blah blah blah, was playing when I went. It's
not in most theaters.
It's in select theaters.
Well, no. It was, but it's been months, so I think most theaters have dropped it.
Well, why isn't it on a streaming service yet? Then that's what I've been relying on. Like the pandemic has it's kind of spoiled me.
The theater I was at was pretty empty, but one of the ones we almost bought tickets for was packed.
Really?
It was a packed house. Yeah, in the middle of the day.
It was the good one. Got to get those matinees.
Well, actually, it might have been.
Have you found yourself going to the theater a lot now that they're back open?
I mean, I don't know what a lot is. No, definitely not a lot. But
as much as you did before the pandemic.
Maybe, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because all the movies, I guess, coming directly to streaming services and having to pay an extra $20 to watch it one time, or to pay for, I guess, the extra superior subscription and stuff was getting kind of old. So I'm glad, because I think the whole movie experience is like, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm not willing to pay for the candy and popcorn and extra expensive sodas and stuff. A lot of theaters now serve food.
Really? So they're encroaching on movie taverns territory.
Well, I mean, that's just what movie tavern is. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. Movie tavern is no longer has a monopoly on food in the theater.
Wow.
There's a place near me called Studio Movie Grill. It's terrible. That's actually where we saw. That's actually where I just watched everything everywhere. But we did not eat the food there because twice I've been there and I've eaten the food, and twice I've been thoroughly disappointed, and once even outraged.
Did they poison you, or what was wrong with it?
Let me tell you what was wrong with it. So the first time I went there, it was to watch the Demon Slayer movie.
Ooh.
I remember distinctly. I was watching the Demon Slayer movie with my then girlfriend, and I ordered. They had a meal that was like popcorn shrimp and popcorn chicken together.
Okay.
And then I think it had fries and some like barbecue sauce. The sauce was like super sweet. The popcorn chicken was tasteless and kind of chewy. The popcorn shrimp, or was like coconut shrimp or something. Yeah, it wasn't popcorn shrimp. It was coconut shrimp, but it was fine. It was like the lowest tier breaded shrimp you can get. And for what I paid for it, I was very disappointed.
So you still paid the movie theater premium?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the second time I went, I was with a bunch of people. I'm trying to remember what movie I saw. I think it was Knives Out, or maybe not Death on the Nile or something. I don't know. It was with a group of people. That's what I remember distinctly. And I ordered a meal. I forget what the meal was. And I ordered a huge milkshake. No, a sundae. It was a huge sundae.
Oh.
I didn't realize it was a huge sundae, but it definitely was for two. So what happened is I made the order. They're like, well, do you want the sundae now, like with the food? And I'm like, no, if you can bring it out like a little later, that'd be fantastic. And they're like, of course, no problem. They never brought the food.
Oh, snap.
So I'm starving. This was my meal for dinner. They never brought the food. Eventually I'm like, hey, can I get my food? And then can you also just bring the sundae? Because it's like getting closer to the end of the movie. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry, of course. So they bring the sundae.
Of course.
I'm like, I haven't eaten any food, and I have a massive sundae in front of me.
So did you cancel the food?
Yeah, so I realized it was a sundae for two. I ate half of it. I gave the other half to my friend because I'm like, I don't want to eat this whole thing for dinner. Like, that's insane. And I canceled it, and they refunded. I think they refunded me. I'm sure they did. I would have raised Cain if they didn't. But yeah, I was like nibbling on my friend's food, and then I went home and had some like Hot Pockets or something because I was starving.
Oh,
I'm like, I had to have something other than brownies and ice cream for dinner, please. So that was my movie experience. That's
why you should leave it to Movie Tavern.
Yes, I'm gonna go back to Louisiana just to go to Movie Tavern.
I had a Movie Tavern experience. I don't remember what movie I was there to see, but it convinced me never to go back because, like, just the idea of being in a theater but also having like waiters didn't seem like it was a really good mix because if you try and look at the screen, you know,
yeah, you have someone crouching in front of you, or even worse, crouching in front of the person next to you, but they're still in your way.
Right. And not only just are they walking back and forth, they're also talking. Like, people are giving their order or berating the waitress for some reason. You know, she brought a sundae and not the food. You know, so we have to deal with all that.
Yeah.
But what happened to me, though, was, and it solidified the fear I had of somebody just coming up to me over and over again, is before the movie started, we got there early. They were like, okay, you know, we got there early so we could place our orders and all that, so that the food would just come out. We wouldn't have to talk to anybody.
That's a good idea.
So,
sure.
But everything was like severely delayed. It wasn't that full in there, but I don't know how those things run. I feel like they'd be very inefficient all the time. But this was just one particular experience. I think I've only been to the movie tavern maybe twice. And the second time I went, I didn't order anything because of this. But so we ordered our drinks first, or pretty much everything. And so sitting there waiting for my drink, and it was like these lemonades or something, some sort of flavored drinks. It might have been ices. And so they bring me one, and the lights are still on. I'm like, this is the wrong one. And my wife was sitting next to me, and she's like, oh, I ordered one of those. So I handed it to her. And then a couple minutes later, the movie started, or previews or whatever. They come back to me, and they bring me the same flavor icy. And I said, no, I didn't order this one. And like, oh, you can keep it anyway. That's fine. I was like, okay, well, I'll just drink it. Don't worry about it. And they came to me probably 2 more times. Third time, I will say, at least they gave me the right drink. But they kept bringing me more drinks, and I only ordered one. I had 4 drinks brought to me this night.
Oh my gosh!
And I don't even remember if I ordered any food, if I ever got any food. But that's what I distinctly remember is my fears being confirmed because people just kept bringing me drinks. I just wanted the one drink that I ordered the first time, so I didn't order anything else. We went to Dollar Tree before the
very
next
good
time,
yeah,
and brought our own snacks.
So I mean, I think there is something to be said for the experience of being able to eat a full meal during the movie instead of, I mean, if you sneak in snacks if you buy snacks, excuse me.
Yeah, nobody does that.
If you sneak in like snacks, like that's fine, especially candy. Like who cares? But you have to eat before or after. But if you eat the meal in the theater, it's like a whole different experience. I enjoy that. It's just not worth the money and the terrible food. Now,
I do like having a meal while watching a movie.
Yeah, who doesn't? Well, it depends on the meal, I guess. Some of the meals, I have to wonder, like, who okayed this menu? Because I have to, like, look at my plate. I'm trying to watch a movie. Anyway,
nachos are so good.
I will say drinks in the theater makes no sense to me. But if they're alcoholic drinks, I'm down for that. Because I'm not willing to, like, try to sneak alcohol into a theater. I'll sneak anything else. One time I snuck a burrito into a theater.
Hey, a 5-layer burrito?
No, it was like from Moe's.
Oh,
it was a huge burrito. Yeah, I don't know how I got it in.
Yeah, I brought Taco Bell into a theater before.
Ooh, Taco Bell actually, it sounds like a really great theater idea.
It is, because I mean everything's individually wrapped, and then they give you the inconspicuous brown bag, which you can kind of fold up really neatly, and you know. My wife had a enormous purse specifically for movie outings. Like she could carry snacks for like 16 people.
Perfect.
And it worked out phenomenally every single time. But man, we had the whole theater smelling like the neighborhood because all the nearby places we brought food in there from.
That's incredible. So, all right, I've talked about one of my favorite multiverse movies. Do you have anything you want to add? What's your favorite multiverse movie?
Yeah, so I'll have to say, and maybe it's a typical pick these days, but I wouldn't check just to make sure I wasn't forgetting one. But still, right now, my favorite multiverse movie will have to be Back to the Future. No, I'm just kidding. Now somebody's going to argue, oh, is that quantum? Yeah, whatever. That's time travel because they saw the same. Never mind. I'm not going to get into it because I don't know what I'm talking about. So my favorite multiverse movie was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes, sir. And I think it kind of put like the whole multiverse idea on the map in a really positive light because of how they handled the Spider folks. And Miles Morales is a super likable Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then, they killed Spider-Man at the beginning, which always makes a movie better when you kill someone, the main character. Or I guess not the main character, but the biggest superhero. And then you root for the underdog even more so. Because they experienced that big loss. But anyway, that's the rest of the movie. The multiverse aspect of it, though, was really cool. Because I think they handled all the spiders very tastefully, tactfully. And it wasn't like overplayed. They all had their tropes. Like I get, you're going to get that. But it was still like a really fun way that they handled it. Really, overall, just a beautiful movie.
Oh, so
incredible soundtrack.
Sounds so good.
I can't say anything bad about it, to be honest. Other than that it hadn't had a sequel yet.
I would say this is one of the only Sony movies I've ever thought of. One of the only movies by Sony. Maybe this is a smaller pool than I'm thinking, but one of the only movies by Sony that I would put up against like Pixar's best movies.
And
it's not even.
That'd be an interesting thing to dive into. Yeah. What's another Sony movie?
An animated movie?
Yeah, I can't even think of one right
I can't either. I feel like Sony is such an not underrated, but like under advertised movie producer. Like I never think, oh, what's a good Sony movie?
So maybe they're a part of more movies than we realize.
I think I'm sure they are. I just can't. Yeah, that's the issue. I can't think of them right now.
The other publishers' names are more
prevalent,
memorable. Yeah, because it would make sense that they have their hands in other movies that we like, animated ones included.
Yeah,
I can't think of any of them.
I mean, it's easily the best 2D style. I know it's not technically 2D, but like the style is kind of 2D.
Yeah, it's like even though it's all done in 3D,
right,
you could pretty much consider it like a mixed media movie.
It's just so good.
All the different techniques and stuff. Oh yeah,
I think it's my favorite Spider-Man movie. One of my favorite animated movies.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. One of my favorite Multiverse movies. That's a good point. Good call out.
Yeah. Certainly, my it's at the top of my list. Yeah. Yeah, I think the sequel. I forget what it's called. Is it Lost in the Spider-Verse or something? It's supposed to come out pretty soon.
Oh, word? There's a sequel?
Yeah.
I wonder if it's.
I want to say. I hope so. I mean, they set the bar unrealistically high for anything they're going to do next. But I mean, before this movie, there wasn't really anything that could stand next to it as far as what it did. So they might. If they just make the same movie but a little bit better, that'd be enough. Just marginally better.
Bring Fisk back.
Oh my gosh. I wasn't dead, Spider-Man. I'm about it. He was one of my favorite characters too. That dude was legit shaped like a box. Yeah,
his design really bothered me the first time I saw it. I'm like, why is
it just still bother you?
Why does this man look like a refrigerator? Like, what is going on?
He does.
How can he punch as strong as Spider-Man?
This man got Microsoft written on his back.
You hear him in the middle of the night. Oh, that's just the ice maker. That's great.
But yeah, I want to know what his bone structure looks like, because nothing about him made any sense. How can he even stand up?
Yeah, he's like Frankenstein's monster. He did they not? So I know that they sometimes animate like the skeletons and characters. Did they not do that in that movie? I don't think so.
I think he gets like the special move where Miles puts his hand and he's like,
"Oh yeah,
hey." I think he did that to him, but I don't think it was close enough to see his skeleton. I don't remember. I feel like I would have remembered seeing his skeleton because I'm very interested in seeing his skeleton.
You know what? They usually only do that. Well, I think they did. I think they did show a skeleton, but it isn't one of those scenes where like you stand in place and get shocked and like like right, it just blows them back immediately. So if they showed it, it wouldn't have been for very long.
You have to go frame by frame and maybe see it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like doing that. Maybe somebody else did it and I can just Google it.
There's a whole website, wilsonfiskskeleton.com. I care this much.
A doctor doing a report. If you look here at his spinal column.
Dude, I saw a picture online. Somebody did a tattoo where it was a tattoo. It was a sleeve, so it was on the arm, and the tattoo was supposed to make the arm look like a skeleton's arm, but they did not use an anatomical skeleton. So instead of like the what is it, the ulna and the femur, or I don't know my bones, man.
What, the radius and the ulna?
That's what it is. The radius and the ulna, or the ulna.
And the forearm.
Yes, instead of having two bones connected to like a wrist, and then connected to like the elbow joint, it was like a spine. So like imagine I'm standing in front of you and I hold my arm out towards you, so the top of my forearm is facing you. All right. So imagine a spine going down my arm, so a bunch of small
vertebrae, bro.
A bunch of vertebrae, and then ribs.
Oh, excuse me.
Ribs.
You
coming off of the vertebrae and wrapping around the bottom of the arm, like I have little lungs in my arm.
Can't do that.
It looked really cool, but then you think about it for more than a second, and you're like, "Wait, what?"
Like my boy would have the floppiest forearm.
Well, it'd be floppy in like one dimension, but
oh, true.
Like
rigid in the other.
Yeah, vertebrae only bend one direction. Well, they bend lots of ways, but they are limited. But yeah,
it wouldn't be natural.
Yeah, it's super weird. It's a cool looking tattoo, but I wonder if it was done with like the understanding, like this is wrong, but it still looks cool, so we're gonna go for it.
Did they just do the bones, or did they put like muscle into it too? Do you remember?
No, it was a white guy and it was black ink, and then I don't remember if they used white ink for the bones, or if it was just his skin. But yeah, it was just black ink for the negative space. Basically, like you would see if someone's wearing a skeleton costume.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I see.
But it actually has to wrap around. I don't know. Yeah, they didn't do the sinews and muscles and stuff.
It does sound like it would look really cool, though. I can't lie.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll send you a picture. Because
you think like Van braces have those different rivets on them that kind of look like vertebrae. So,
wait, what?
It probably looks Van braces, like wrist guards. They have rivets on them.
With
like
rivets? I don't think I know what you're talking about.
Or like layers. They're layered leather. So they're kind of, yeah. And so, I mean, it's a style, so not all of them do.
Sure.
But yeah, just to kind of like guard against swords and stuff. They won't be a solid piece.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh, to keep it flexible.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So yeah, probably pretty cool.
Mm.
There's a multiverse though. And then this is a game that I want to talk about. And I know you haven't played it recently, but I just got to put it out there that as far as multiverses are concerned, I think Fortnite has the most crossover as far as universes than any other like centralized IP.
Well, I mean, does Fortnite really acknowledge all of the source material, or does it just pull a character in with no context and say, look, a skin?
It varies. So right now, the whole season is about the IO forces, which is, I guess, a Fortnite universe people, like kind of army, futuristic army. And the invasion of Darth Vader and stormtroopers, and how they're like going at some sort of war with, and then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is also part of the IO forces. He's like a leader or something. But at least the Star Wars part of it, which they've been integrating more and more, is integrated into the season. And Marvel was last season, where they put the Daily Bugle was a location on the map. And so like they're acknowledging that these universes are colliding in a similar way that it seems like some of the Mortal Kombat storylines kind of have, where they pull the characters from different places and try to explain it. Oh, the one that really did it was Injustice, when explaining why the superheroes were there. You know, they're handling it similar to that, where it's like they're acknowledging it for story purposes enough for it to make sense in the game. But I think to me, I don't know if you're making like a long form game or if it's secondary. I get it why you wouldn't put too much into it, but for me, the fact that they're even putting any effort into it, I think does acknowledge that it's beyond just skins for most of them, and that's not the case for all of them. A lot of them are just brand deals.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So, okay. I didn't realize that Fortnite had like running lore. Although I guess it's kind of developed it more over the years, right?
Yeah, I don't think it did at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the running lore is relatively new. I mean, Fortnite isn't that old of a game to begin with, but I think the lore is relatively new because they just added NPCs a couple of seasons ago, and that's where really I guess the storylines really took off. Is now you can meet these skins in game and find out stuff. It's crazy deep. So I feel like from here on, it'll probably be more not specified, but intentional integrations with these IPs. Because even the Naruto stuff that they've been introducing lately has been kind of interwoven into the stuff.
Is Naruto also in Fortnite?
Naruto is in Fortnite. They actually just released Itachi and Orochimaru, Gaara, and I'm blanking on her name, but
it doesn't matter.
Anyway, more more characters than just it was just Naruto and Kakashi, and Sasuke and Sakura at first, but yeah, they're adding to the band, and then a bunch of characters from Street Fighter are in here now. It's insane. I have no idea where it's headed. Yeah, Master Chief's in there. Like I said, Spider-Man was a big deal last season, so the Prowler also in there. Doctor Strange was a part of. No, that was actually last season. Spider-Man was 2 seasons ago. Yeah, last season was Doctor Strange.
Wow. Could he? Did he have like shields? Well, I guess they could have just said the shields are magic shields.
Yeah. So he's got like his he's got like magic emotes, and his glider is one of those shield things. But that's one of the things that's, I guess, kind of interesting about Fortnite is that these characters get transported into it, but they don't really retain like their skills and stuff that they had in those other universes. It just adds to the weapon pool of Fortnite. So, for example, like Darth Vader as a skin, he doesn't start off with a lightsaber, but you can get one on the map.
Right. But everyone
you don't have to be exactly. You don't have to be Darth Vader to get one. So
cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of crossover in that too, because you can have like the Spider-Man harvesting tool, which is like his base weapon, but be playing in the Superman skin and break all known laws of aviation, because you're not supposed to do that. It's wild.
You can fly as Superman, but also web sling as Spider-Man.
Exactly. Yeah, because they had the what do you call them? The web shooters. That was one season.
Yeah.
And man, people were kind of joking about it, but legitimately, the web swinging in Fortnite was probably one of the best incarnations of Spider-Man's web swinging in a video game, hands down.
Wow. Yeah. I appreciate that. It shows that they care.
Mm-hmm. They do. They want that money.
Mm.
I don't blame them. But that was pretty much the last thing that I wanted to mention about multiverses, because
I'm trying to think of other things I've seen with multiverses.
It's pretty prevalent in video games. Like you think of like games like we talk about multiverses, but Smash Bros, PlayStation All Stars. I guess a lot of like those crossover fighters are technically multiverse games.
I mean, sure, but they're not. I'm talking about like writing. Like writing a story.
Yeah.
Smash Bros barely has a story.
Barely.
It's more of it's like a metaphor.
You got the Subspace Emissary.
Yeah, the Subspace Emissary is cool.
That's got all the story you need.
But interestingly, in the world of the Subspace Emissary, all these different characters live in like the realm of Smash Bros. They don't come from other universes.
That's true. So yeah, they don't explain why Snake is there.
Yeah.
He's just on the ship.
I guess Taboo came from another universe.
Oh yeah, the big bad. Was he the reason why they were all together in the first place?
No, they were. Well, they weren't all together, but they were in the same, like, space.
On the same planet?
On the same realm.
Yeah, realm. That's a better way to say it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I guess Star Fox may have been on a different planet.
It kind of felt like they just stayed within their own little areas, but there wasn't, like, stopping them from crossing between areas.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably like licensing and stuff.
Martha's like, why can't I go to this mushroom kingdom? There's like a giant sign in the way. You are not allowed.
You are not allowed.
Yeah.
You don't like your kind.
One of my favorite movies, The Fountain, is, I would say, barely a sci-fi movie, but technically it has like 3 different versions of the same 2 characters that are like their stories are like interwoven.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really think of it as multiverses, but I guess they kind of are.
Yeah. I heard of this movie. Now I'm gonna question, I guess, every time travel movie in comparison to like multiverse movies. But I hadn't actually seen this movie, but I'm gonna mention it in case you have. But Hot Tub Time Machine.
I have not seen it. Sorry.
Yeah. But we can't. I guess I can mention then. I joked about it earlier, but the Back to the Future movies.
Yeah.
Like, what if those were multiverse? They were traveling multiverse. They were doing multiverse travel instead of time travel, but they didn't know the difference. Like, would it make a difference?
I think it does, and the reason is because of the specific limitations involved with both. And I mentioned that earlier. So in a time travel movie, especially in Back to the Future, and hilariously enough, they even mention this explicitly in Avengers Endgame. But in Back to the Future, you can affect your own present by messing with the past.
Oh, okay. The butterfly effect or something?
Sure, but just cause and effect. You know, like if you kill somebody in the past, they won't exist in your present.
Your present. Yeah.
And the way they got around that, and what made time travel more like multiverses in the Marvel movies, or at least in Endgame, was that they basically said, "Oh, well, everything's split. So if you do something in the past, that won't affect your present." So that made it seem more like, oh, it's just another timeline entirely, or another universe. But it's definitely like explicitly the same timeline in Back to the Future.
Right. Yeah, because everything had the whole point was to go back and change the future. So
yeah,
all right, makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the tie-in then. If you want to know the distinction between time travel and multiverse travel, is if you go back, everything's got to be connected. You can't go back and change something just to like bring something to your future, and then there's repercussions to going back.
Yeah,
if you're time traveling. Not so much if you're multiverse.
Have you seen Steins Gate, an anime?
No.
Oh man, I had always heard a lot about, or I had heard about it in like the periphery. Like, oh, this is a really good anime. It's a time travel anime that starts off like kind of kooky and fun, but then actually it gets really interesting and like really. I don't want to say epic because the stakes aren't like super duper high, but it's pretty emotional at points. But yeah, it deals with time travel, and it deals with it in a very, I would say, in a pretty consistent way. So it's very satisfying for me. Steins Gate, definitely watch it.
Steins Gate.
Yeah, it's an older anime too, so you'll appreciate the writing because you know that it's like OG time travel stuff.
I like the style of most old school anime.
Yeah.
Like before stuff got... I mean, I love how pretty stuff is, but there's just something so charming about the grittiness of the old anime. Just because a lot of anime now, they try to even recreate the style just because it is so iconic. The cells moving around and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's so good. It was bad back then. Like I'm pretty sure people got fired.
It was garbage back then.
This looks like trash.
Yeah.
But today we appreciate. So I've got a question for you, Steve.
Very well.
If given the choice between multiverse travel or time travel, which would you choose?
Ooh, do I have?
I mean, I guess you can pick, like, if there's a reason why you would want to do either, that could be enough.
So I think my preference would be multiverse travel for two reasons. One, I would be terrified of messing up my original timeline if it's time travel.
That's a fair point.
And it's you can't really come back from that. Maybe you can. I don't know. That's like the plot of half of every time travel story is. Oh no, I messed it up. How do I fix it? But yeah, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want that stress. The other reason is I think that I assume that if I go multiverse, that I'm stuck in this year. Like I can't go to any point in the multiverse.
Yeah, that's a fair.
But I'll assume I have free reign over space for either choice. So I can go to Italy in the other dimension, or I can go to Italy in the past. Yeah, I think multiverses, time travel would be really cool, but there's only like a few specific things I would want to do. Like I would want to meet Jesus. I would want to see specific events, but that's it. I wouldn't. Well, I'd probably want to see the future too. But with a multiverse, I feel like you just have this infinite space to explore. Like, especially if the multiverse, the different universes are like radically different from ours. Like, how cool would that be to be able to see? As long as I can easily get back to my universe and I don't get lost.
Yeah.
Like America, poor America.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, she can get back now, but she doesn't care. So
yeah, she doesn't want her entire reason for the conflict is gone.
Right. Yeah. Forget about it.
But yeah, that's my reason, because I want to go to the paint universe in Doctor Strange, right?
Ooh, you want to be a paint blob?
Yeah.
It looked painful.
Yeah, maybe not for too long. I just want to see.
So just blip in and blip out.
What is it? Rick and Morty explores multiverse travel a lot. They actually specifically avoid time travel for the most part. And so they play a lot of they play a lot with ideas of like what wacky, zany other dimensions there might be, parallel worlds. And so
yeah, I've seen like that's what the green portal is, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've seen that referenced in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Other media and stuff too, like not just T-shirts and stuff.
So yeah, I'll go with the Rick and Morty route. I would avoid time travel and go with multiverse travel instead.
So a multiverse gun? Is that what he uses?
Yeah, it's a portal gun. Which, to be clear, has both the power of human teleporting, where he can go between spaces in our world, and combine multiverse teleporting, where he can go to other multiverses. So he has the best. He has both technologies at his disposal.
You get the best,
but not time travel. It doesn't do time travel. I think he has the technology, or he knows how to do it, but the portal gun does not do time travel.
Yeah, I'd imagine Rick does have the capacity.
Of course, yeah. But he as a person, as a character, he's like, no, time travel sucks. So yeah. They don't do it very often, if at all.
I think in most ways I'd agree with you. Because the first thing I think of in both of them is like what happens if I die, and different ways I could die. Like in time travel, it seems like you usually go back to the place that you were when you traveled. So like for me, watching movies and stuff, I think it's always really convenient that nobody teleports to a place where it used to be submerged in water, or there used to be a tower there, or there's just a beam coming up,
or the ground level is changed and you teleport underground.
Right, either underground or well above ground, and you fall and break your legs. Either of those scenarios is terrible. It's always just perfectly standing somewhere. So if that's the scenario, I think time travel is a little bit better. In reference to itself, if you don't time travel and then die immediately. And then another thing about dying from time travel, is like the loop. Like if you're older, right, and you travel back in time to the past. Maybe you don't interact with your past self, but maybe you're reckless or something. You go too far back, whatever, and then you die in the past. Mm-hmm. Then I think you make a loop for yourself because you were born and you lived up to the point to where you discovered time travel and went back,
and then you disappear.
Right. So it's like either you, but does it change? Like since you changed your future, and this is why I don't like time travel because it's like, the past you went to destined to do what you just did in their future?
Oh, I see. I mean, I guess
it hardly matters.
It depends on what rules you're using for time travel. I guess I should have asked that question: are we going with like a splitting timeline, or are we going with a consistent timeline where like if you make changes, there's no splits, nothing. There's not like multiple timelines, but the changes propagate. Or are we going with like a self-consistent timeline where things, no matter, there's no splits, but nothing propagates because everything was always going to happen.
Oh,
those are like the three main thoughts.
So definitely not the last one, because that implies that you going back and dying in the past already was meant to happen. So nothing changes.
Yeah.
So I guess my question was more aligned with the first one, but I think it also kind of answers itself because, I mean, you died in the past, but your future doesn't know, so it still doesn't change anything.
Yeah, I think the last one where everything's self-consistent is the safest time travel, and then the one where things branch is the most dangerous in terms of getting lost and like changing your future. Yeah, getting lost in the timelines, basically. And then the one where everything propagates and there's no splitting is the most dangerous because you can just straight up erase yourself.
Right, on accident.
Yeah.
I would probably do that.
You know what's crazy, though, is erasing yourself is a concern, obviously. But if you erase yourself, then that's because you've changed the future so that you've changed your present by messing with the past. But by changing your present, you stop yourself from messing with the past. So now it's an inconsistent. It's not
right.
So like now you've created a paradox, and who knows what happens then?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No thanks. Don't want to deal with paradoxes either.
Yeah.
Oof.
So that's the one that has paradoxes. So it's not ideal.
And then, so for multiverse travel, I think the similar issue to the first thing. You travel to the same point in time, and just in a different, time and space. And so, if there's something there, and you try to fill the same space, obviously you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah,
multi time.
I would even say it's never mind. Yeah, go ahead.
And so that, along with your paint world example, I would imagine that there are multiverses where the version of us is able to withstand whatever the conditions are there. So if you go to a place that's like extremely hot,
you die, but the multiverse Kyle doesn't die because he's used to it.
Exactly.
That's true.
So
that's
I just died in their universe, or like an Atlantis type thing. You're immediately just teleport into underwater.
Yeah, I guess I was relying on plot armor, but we're not talking about a story where nothing bad happens.
Right.
Yeah, probably most other universes would be inhospitable or instantly lethal.
And they kind of alluded to that in Doctor Strange, but it was super subtle because they had different customs there, so there was a chance that also it was inhospitable for the long term for them because they didn't stay till like nighttime to see what would happen, and there wasn't anything that said that everyone who was there was even human. So
yeah,
a lot of questions for the multiverse thing. But If I had to choose, though, I would think in some capacity I'd have control, hopefully, over which universe I traveled to.
Sure.
And so I could make sure that most of the conditions that would keep me alive were met. Wherein I feel like time travel is just, it's very unwieldy. Like, there's so much room for error. And then even in the hijinks movies, they usually, like you said, they usually have to go back and fix whatever they did. And yeah, that doesn't sound like a good time. And unless you have plot armor, there's a chance you won't fix it the second time. And you'll be kind of like almost in a Groundhog Day situation too, where you have to go back and live the past over and over again to try to fix your future or something.
That's not fun.
No, not about it.
Not about it.
Hard pass. I choose the present then.
You know what you just reminded me of? There is a series of young adult books called The Pendragon Saga or something. And the premise is that this boy becomes part of a interdimensional organization whose goal is to keep the dimensions stable and isolated from each other as much as possible. And they're fighting against either a person or a group of people, I forget, who are trying to do the opposite. They're trying to mix the different dimensions together as much as possible and cause chaos. And there's this idea that the more the more things move between dimensions and elements and people and technologies, the more unstable the walls of reality become, and they start to encroach on each other, kind of like what happened in Doctor Strange. And so that's the goal, is to avoid that happening. And the first couple books basically just revolves around the kid, being sent to whatever dimension and for whatever reason and trying to solve some problems there. And so they were all normal. I think one was a water world where the water was breathable or something.
Nice.
One was there was crazy technology where people just lived in the Matrix pretty much. But one of them was Earth's past. It was just Earth, but 40 years in the past.
What?
Or some amount of years in the past. And so that story was insane because they follow the bad guy there, and they foil his plan, or they try to foil his plan. Or maybe, I don't know. Basically, for whatever reason, they stop the Hindenburg explosion from happening.
Oh, snap.
And then they go back to the present and it's all jacked up. And they go to the future and it's all jacked up. There's also a future Earth. So there's 3 Earths in this timeline, this whatever multiverse area. And they realized that when they stopped the Hindenburg from exploding, they changed the core. There was a scientist in Germany, a German scientist who survived, who shouldn't have survived, and he creates atomic warfare, and then all this stuff happens and goes bad. And so they have to go back and blow up the Hindenburg themselves. And it was this huge, obviously a huge moral dilemma, but yeah, I mean, that was a situation where you have multiverses and time travel. It's pretty intense.
That does sound intense. So this group that wanted to add the chaos, did they have kind of a backhandedly positive reason for doing it?
I don't remember.
Oh,
yeah. I don't even think I read the entire series.
That just sounds like it'd be a bad time for everybody. I don't understand that plot.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a villain who's just crazy. You know how it is.
That's true.
It's also it's like I said, it's a young adult book, so.
Oh yeah,
Harry Potter, Voldemort syndrome. You just kind of make a villain and go with it.
Villain for the sake of antagonist.
Yeah, villainy for villainy.
I guess you got to do it. Then you know who to root for. Speaking of a place, you mentioned it. You said there was a universe where you could breathe underwater. Even if I could breathe underwater, I don't want to go down there in oceans and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting for other people who are on that tip, bring a gun down there or whatever. Now they can breathe, but I'm still not going to go.
Oh, I would love it. I love swimming. Swimming is as close as I get to flying, so I do it as much as I can.
I'd swim in like pools and stuff, but I wouldn't go to the bottom of the ocean. I mean, I guess the pressure would still be an issue anyway.
Yeah, I suppose it would. Well, not necessarily. Pressure is, I guess it depends on what the mechanism is that lets me breathe underwater, but pressure only really, I don't know. I guess fish can't just... I think that pressure is only an issue in our world. If you're breathing air is the biggest problem. But even if you're not breathing air, maybe the mix of oxygen and nitrogen that like are dissolved in your blood changes as you go lower, and depending on your body chemistry, you might have to like avoid that. So like surface level fish can't swim deep because they would have issues. But if you're assuming that a human can breathe underwater, then I think you can also assume that that's not a problem.
It would alleviate that pressure.
Like the physical pressure isn't a problem if you're breathing water because everything is operating at the same pressure inside and out. You're equalized.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I was still thinking about here in my gill-less body's mind.
Mm-hmm. You're thinking like a landlubber.
That's my bad. That's on me.
Yeah.
I don't have my sea legs yet.
You don't have your sea brain. Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I feel like it's getting towards time. I'm surprised we were able to converse this long. We had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of universes out there, a lot of things to cover.
Yeah.
So. Nah, I'm good. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I'm all talked out. I'm also starving, so I'm ready to go. It's just one of those days I'm like, oh man, I want to keep talking, but I also want to get down on some grub.
Yeah, go to Movie Tavern.
Yes, go to the Studio Movie Grill, get some popcorn, coconut shrimp and popcorn chicken or something. And some super sweet barbecue sauce. That's what the doctor ordered.
You can order that, but they're just going to bring you a sundae. So it hardly matters.
It doesn't matter what you go there for. Because I don't want that sundae on an empty tummy. All right. Well, I just want to thank all our listeners. Thanks for coming through, listening to us chat and go on about multiverses. I think it's pretty interesting. I think most people are into multiverses and stuff. I'm honestly surprised this hasn't come up before on our podcast. But
it was only a matter of time.
Kyle, I want to thank you for your time.
A pleasure as always.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Braxton, I want to thank you for you not being here.
Yes, thanks so much for your absence.
Thank you for your absence. I did miss you a little bit, but this let me finally have some quality time with Kyle that I've been missing.
QT time.
That's right.
As they say.
And if you're not me or Kyle or Brad, aka if you're a listener, this is our podcast. Feel free to find us on anywhere that you get podcasts. That's not true. It's only most places that you get podcasts.
Most places.
I know a few places where we are not. But we are on Spotify. We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube, which is my favorite podcast place. We are on Stitcher and Apple Podcasts and probably a few others. Links in the description.
Facebook.
Say again?
We're on Facebook.
We're on Facebook now. That's right. We have a page you can follow. Basically, we just repost these episodes and we make mean jokes about people. That's not true. We don't do that. You can find us on Twitter at TheSAB. That is at TheSAB. The at is not part of the name. It's just the at symbol. You know how it is. And I think that's it. Any other platform stuff that I'm missing, Kyle?
I think you covered it.
I think I covered
Check us out in the Discord if you're in there.
Yeah, come through on Discord. Tell me how much I smell. And yeah, that'll be it. So have a good night, everybody. Until next time, peace.
Bring me pictures of Spider-Man.